Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest, you mute them. Turning it up, these numbers are loud. Peeping this game from a nimbus is wild. Making it rain while I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bill, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bill, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Hey, really the only thing that gon' be normal is distribution. Normal folks gon' infuse some. Optimize your lineups and you feed the rest.
Hey everyone, Bradley Stalder here. Best Bell Fantasy Football. We're into week 2. We just had a crazy, wild, high-scoring Thursday night game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Philadelphia Eagles. TJ Hockenson, 2 touchdowns in that game. Here's the thing. TJ Hockenson was my number 1 tight end of the week. Let's go. Talk about taking the dub. Yeah, I moved him up because of how much Hunter Henry was feasting, how this Philadelphia offense was going to push the Minnesota offense. It was great. This was awesome. And TJ Hockenson was the consensus. Let's see, in the rankings among half PPR, he was the tight end 2, moved him up to 1. He was an easy 1. I know that Kelsey and Mark Andrews are expected to play, but it's going to be hard for them to beat, TJ Hockenson and his 2 touchdowns. So I will take that. And look, there were only a handful of other players to rank TJ Hockenson as the tight end 1 overall for the week. It feels pretty good. So I hit on TJ Hockenson. That was great. I moved Jalen Hurts up. That was good. I had Devonta Smith a little bit higher than consensus. AJ Brown was about lined with consensus. Rashad Penny I whiffed on. And I was a couple spots ahead of consensus on DeAndre Swift, but that wasn't the seismic shift that we were hoping or expecting for DeAndre Swift. That was one that, as I said, and many of you watched my videos on DeAndre Swift, and I was hesitant to put him in my lineup, but it's also that Kenneth Gainwell wasn't there. And now this murkies the water when Gainwell returns, right? It murkies it because DeAndre Swift is the better talent by far. Swift is better than Rashad Penny in rushing. He's better in receiving than Kenny Gainwell. He's a more dynamic athlete. Problem is he does get hurt. So this was a career game for DeAndre Swift. Hats off to Swift. Hats off to the Eagles coaching staff finally utilizing him. So that is a big deal. So a little bit of a recap of what happened Thursday night. But this live stream, for those who are new or unfamiliar with my channel, during the season, I love to do start sits as much as I can because y'all blow up my chat and my comments. And I can't remember a time where I haven't gone into as much depth as I can until I sputter out. I give a solid hour and a half of fantasy advice. So if you have questions about your start sit, just throw them in the comments. And we'll discuss them. And look, part of this is getting the correct answer at the end, right? My comments blow up afterwards if I get a call wrong, like the DeAndre Swift one. I woke up, I went to bed at midnight. I went to bed at around midnight, and I had gotten some comments about DeAndre Swift. I woke up and I think there were 60 something comments all saying what an idiot this guy is about downplaying DeAndre Swift and being hesitant about blah, blah, blah. And, look, it was a bad call, but you have bad calls here and there. But the thing that I'll take the L for DeAndre Swift. I will not take the L for Jordan Addison. Addison had a 12-point play on one play. And I was worried about his snaps. And aside from that, he had 2 for 20 right? So he is running the routes that we like. He is having some big plays that we like. He's getting some deep targets, some air yards. He's getting the red zone looks. He got 2 red zone targets in week 1, and then he had this big play in week 2. I think he's a smash top 24 wide receiver starting in week 3 and beyond, because now there's going to be time for the Minnesota Vikings to reevaluate how are they running their offense. Obviously, Alexander Mattison has fallen by the wayside, and that was a good call by me. I was ranking Alexander Mattison as a very low running back too, and you couldn't really see much upside. I gave reasons as to why I was hesitant on a macro and micro scale, that Madison hasn't been good himself, and then also that the Vikings had moved away from the running game, that they're under O'Connell, one of the pass heaviest teams in the NFL. So of course, we want to stay away from Alexander Mattison, and that just makes sense. So much of it makes sense. And so, yes, I take some L's on the conclusion, but it's about this process and discussing the ranges of outcomes of players as well, because we knew what the ranges of outcomes for DeAndre Swift was. We knew that elite running back 1 weeks are in his range of outcomes. We've seen it before. We know it's in his profile, and that's the deal. So, y'all, I'm stalling right now. I see some comments are coming in. Keep putting those comments in. I'm going to answer them here in just a second. So, yeah, it was a wild night last night. I I went to bed at like midnight, woke up at like 3:30, and started cleaning the house, because I don't know, that's just how my life was. We had to take care of some things because I didn't do much during the game, so I had to wake up at like 3:30 and clean the house. It's just, that's how life is with kids and family and all that. So yeah, life is good. Life is great. But we're doing fantasy football now. We're going to talk about some of your start sit dilemmas. We're going to get into, right, some of these questions are really tough, but some of them are like, really, you're struggling with that? And I just want to put your minds at ease, because this is part of the process, is thinking through and discussing and weighing what are the valuable variables in our discussion. So let's get through it. Let's start doing it. And of course, if you like the content, you're new here, hit that red subscribe button. Helps the channel grow and continue to get publicity and get out there. I mean, in the last 10 days, the channel has grown 300 subs. So I appreciate all of you who are new subscribers, and shout out to the veteran subscribers who have been with me since last year, since the channel started. This is a very new channel relative to a lot of those other established channels. So, and for those who don't know me, I'm Bradley. You can follow me on Twitter at FFStalder. I do a lot of work for Player Profiler, but this is my baby. This is Best Bell Fantasy. This is my baby. So welcome to my channel. I'm very proud of it. I'm very proud of the work that I do as a fantasy analyst. And I like to think I offer some of the best advice and thoughtful advice in the industry. I've worked alongside and interviewed and brought on and been hosted by some of the elites in the industry. And it was pretty wild, actually, to realize that you're respected in the industry. Like, it was like a pivot moment for me when I went to the Fantasy Football Expo this year, and I was the one that people were trying to honor. And I had fans come up to me, and it was wild to think that, like, people read my stuff, people watch my stuff. Yeah, they do. And this is really like, I'm honored and I'm flattered that that y'all would come to my channel and ask questions and go through it. So I do want to take some time, but I also wanted to take some time before we get into it, just say thank you. This has been awesome. We're into week 2. We had a lot of big W's in week 1. We had a couple L's, but that's part and parcel for the course. Like, you know, if you find a fantasy analyst who's batting 100% or batting 1,000, you know, whatever it is, you need to be cautious about their process, because they might be, you know, backtracking and scrubbing and things like that. And that's not what you want. Like, I will leave my L's on the YouTube so y'all can see, like, okay, this was his process and maybe he missed, but this was his thoughts, and this is Bradley's thoughts, and that's fine. So I try to drive a lot of my decision making and feedback based on data. And sometimes the data is not the whole picture, but that's okay. But we try to refine and weigh what data is valuable and maybe what's the noise. And so let's get into it. We are 10 minutes in. We got some questions in the chat. Baby Santa in the chat. Shout out to you. Yo, what's up, man? I need your help big time. I'm so lost. Oh no. Got to start 2 wide receivers and 2 flex. Whew, this is a big one. Mike Evans, Godwin, Big Mike Williams, James Conner, James Cook, Jamal Williams, or their trade suggestions. Whew, okay, so I think we like to start the Tampa Bay Buccaneers wide receivers because they're facing the Chicago Bears. We saw the Bears just get torched, absolutely torched last week. Romeo Doubs had 2 touchdowns and he played half of the snaps. Okay. If Romeo Doubs played all the snaps, like that projection would be 4 touchdowns. Obviously, silliness, but we know what a bad quarterback with decent enough wide receivers could do. Now you have Baker Mayfield, who's not a great quarterback, but you've got future Hall of Famer Mike Evans, and you've got Pro Bowler Chris Godwin. Yeah, they're going to feast against Chicago. So you're starting Mike Evans, you're starting Chris Godwin, you're also starting Mike Williams. You've got some really good choices here. You're starting Mike Williams. Austin Eckler is expected to miss Sunday's game against Tennessee due to the ankle injury. So if you want to pick up Josh Kelly as a mid-pack running back too, the volume is going to be there. The goal line work is probably going to be there. And it's clearly Josh Kelly ahead of Elijah Dotson or as Isaiah Spiller. Like, some people on Twitter are going to try to talk you into the other two. And I don't see a strong pathway for those other 2 running backs to be fantasy relevant. Isaiah Spiller was a 4th round pick last year that just didn't do anything because he was slow and not as athletic as people expected. So that was a problem. And so the reason why you want to start Mike Williams is, yes, like he crushes on the outside, but Williams played 40-something% of his snaps. He played about 42% of his snaps in the slot this past week. And that was a seismic shift from what he had been doing in previous seasons. In fact, no season had he had Williams run more than 35% out of the slot. So Big Mike Williams running a lot out of the slot in this new offense without Austin Eckler. We saw Eckler out last year, and it was a peppering of Keenan Allen. But Keenan Allen's playing more on the outside this year. Mike Williams is going to get a few more targets in the slot. We like Mike Williams, and the secondary for Tennessee is not very good. The front 7, the rush defense is pretty good. It's always pretty good, but it's the secondary that can get torched. And so I like the start of Mike Williams. Then it's a question of James Cook, James Conner, and Jamal Williams as that last one. Look, Arizona is facing off against the Giants. I think it's the Giants. I'm pretty sure it's the Giants. They're facing off against the Giants, and the Giants are really, really tough. I think James Conner is going to get the volume that you want, but the ceiling is a question for me of whether or not, in week 2, teams have figured out, the offense runs through James Conner, and that's pretty much it. I think the Giants are going to be savvy enough to be able to stifle that a little bit. And so that's why I'm flipping to James Cook. Buffalo should be able, they gave James Cook 15 touches, in this week 1 game, and he's going to continue to get at least 15 touches and very efficient touches. So I would go with James Cook. So if I'm starting 4 of them, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Mike Williams, James Cook over James Conner this week. Maybe that's a little spicy, but maybe not. Serendipity Trick Shots. What is up, Serendipity Trick Shots? Appreciate you jumping in. What is up? And asking, who should I start? Assuming Hopkins plays, Hopkins or Mike Evans. Yeah, this is a pretty easy one because it's Mike Evans. DeAndre Hopkins is dealing with a very serious ankle injury. And while he could still get double-digit targets, I'm not convinced that DeAndre Hopkins is going to be efficient enough with that ankle injury. He may not run all this, may not play all the snaps, even if he's active. But it looks like the fantasy doctors, based on what I'm reading on the Twitter sphere, are leaning toward Hopkins not playing. So if that's the case, yeah, I think you're going to have to prepare for Evans to start for you anyways. Even if Hopkins plays, I'm going to take Evans in a good matchup against Chicago. Should my friend start Javonte Williams or Zay Flowers in full PPR? Yeah, this is going to be a shootout between the Baltimore Ravens and Cincinnati Bengals. I think that this is going to be a game that we want to be targeting. I mean, when we look at the over-under for this game, 46.5, the Bengals are at home, expected to, they're 3-point favorites, the Bengals are. And so I'm banking on Zay Flowers, to continue to be schemed touches. And even Matt Harmon talked about Zay Flowers earning big boy targets. Yeah. And running those routes, give me Zay Flowers. Javonte Williams did have the majority of rushes and touches in the Denver backfield, but it's Samaje Perine still involved in that backfield. So give me Zay Flowers, even with Mark Andrews back. We like how Flowers had a 46.5 per target rate, or target share is over 46%. Even if it's cut in half, 24% target share is really good. And I think that he's probably going to get closer to 30%. So 8-9 targets in this game, even with Mark Andrews back. And I think the existence of Mark Andrews doesn't affect Zay Flowers as much as it will affect the Odell Beckham plus Rashad Bateman targets. So consider all of that as you're playing. I don't mind Javonte Williams as a running back, a low-end running back to start. Denver plays Washington, but the over-under in that game is 38.5. So it's going to be a low-scoring game. Denver's at home. And are they going to salt away the game with Javonte Williams? Maybe. They might. But I think it's at least fair enough to think that they could salt the game away with Samaje Perine getting some rushes too. So in a close, low-scoring game, I'm not convinced that Javonte Williams is going to be the high spike week upside play, where Zay Flowers has the game script to be able to explode. That's why we want to be targeting Zay Flowers. He's shown elite target share and target earning even in week 1, and game is going to be a shootout. So give me Zay Flowers. Serendipity Trick Shots also asks or says Madison's just not good at running the football. That is fair. He's not good. People were like, "Oh, Alexander Madison, he has less than 4 yards of carry. It's not a big deal. It's a sample size issue. He'll be just fine." Come on, guys. Alexander Madison was the easiest fade this year. That's why you pay attention to this channel. That's why you pay attention to my work. I could have told you. Alexander Madison was a big fade. I only drafted him when he fell like more than a round after ADP. Like you take some ADP values here and there. I mean, someone has to draft Alexander Madison at some point, but I mean, he's not good. And that's why I was pounding the table for Dwayne McBride, right? Dwayne McBride, no matter what, baby. But Ty Chandler also hasn't looked the part. He just hasn't looked good. Dwayne McBride needs to get some run. That's what I'm saying. All right, Joe Castles, shout out to you. Thanks for popping in, Joe. Flex Moss or Collins? I think we're going Nico Collins here. Zach Moss is coming back from an injury. I know Deion Jackson got a lot of rush in the previous game, but he didn't do well. So there is a pathway for Moss to fall into the end zone and get 12 to 15 touches. But you also have to think, if you're the Colts, if you are Shane Steichen and you are the head coach and you've got Anthony Richardson at the goal line, are you going to hand the ball off to Zach Moss, or are you going to run the ball with your first round pick quarterback, your franchise quarterback, your 100th percentile athlete quarterback? You're going to give it to Anthony Richardson in the goal line. That's what makes sense. So I don't think Moss has the touchdown goal line upside that you want. Nico Collins is commanding a 25+% target share. I think my only concern with Nico Collins is that CJ Stroud popped up on the injury report today with a shoulder injury. And this late in the week, if he's questionable with a shoulder injury, we don't know. We know what Davis Mills is. It is not good, but at least Nico Collins was able to put up, low end wide receiver 3 type of efficiency numbers with Davis Mills. This is also a very low over under game, not one that I'm like going on my way to target. But if you have to pick between Nico Collins and Zach Moss, I go Nico Collins, given his role as the number 1 receiver on the Houston Texans. Giants defense or Browns defense this week? It's a tough one. It's a close one, but I'm going with the Giants defense. The quarterback for the Arizona Cardinals is worse. Joshua Dobbs is worse than Kenny Pickett. And we're also going after, the possible game scripts, right? The weapons that exist. The Browns are facing the Steelers. And I know Deontay Johnson is gone, but you still have Pat Freiermuth. You still have George Pickens, who are playmakers. And you've got Najee Harris as well, but Najee Harris will just gobble up yards, gobble up touches. Whereas the Arizona Cardinals, you can't really say that James Conner is significantly better than Najee Harris, like seismically shifting different. And Hollywood Brown isn't a seismic shift difference from George Pickens. And when it comes to tight end, I mean, Trey McBride or Zach Ertz, gross, right? So you've got at least as bad offensive weapons, or at least reasonably close. But you also have to think of what the Browns just did, to the Cincinnati Bengals. They destroyed them. They annihilated them. They were prepared. And they'll be prepared for Pittsburgh too. So give me that. Give me the Giants over the Browns. Okay, go Jin. I need Rachaad White to show me why I reached for him in the 4th round. I'm so sorry. Go Jin. Okay, I'm sorry for laughing. I apologize. But that's why you follow my channel. This is why you listen to me. This is why I could have told. I did tell you. In fact, I went on Mind a Mansion with Matt Kelly back 3 months ago. 3 months ago. And Matt Kelly was grilling me. He was like, Bradley, we need to talk about running backs, and we need to talk about the 5th round. And I think one of the best 5th round picks that you can make in your 0 RB is Rachaad White. And I said, Matt, I respectfully disagree. I don't think Rachaad White is very good. Here's all the efficiency metrics. Like, out of 62 qualified running backs, his PFF grade was like 55th. And his yards after contact per attempt was like 61st. And he was just bad on 130 carries. And Matt was like, well, it's a sample size issue. And I said, no, he's going to be Chase Edmonds 2.0. The Bucs are going to realize that this guy's not getting it done for them on the ground. And the reason why he got 50 receptions last year is because of Tom Brady, because that's what Tom Brady does, not because Rachaad White is anything special. So it's been 1 week, and I think we're still getting the efficiency metric issue with Rachaad White. The yards per carry are very bad. Yards after contact is very bad. The yards per route run is not what you'd want. And so you need Rachaad White to show me why I reached for him in the 4th round. It should have been a 4th round pick in the real NFL draft. A day 3 pick. He should have been a day 3 pick. Ouch. Ooh. Sorry. Not sorry. Rachaad White isn't good. Anyways, sorry, bud. Sorry, Go Jen. Baby Santa, I love the analysis. Thanks, man. Best in the biz. Appreciate you, Baby Santa. And if you like the content, you find this helpful, just like Baby Santa does, make sure you hit that subscribe button, guys. It's really, really helpful for the channel. Also, if you're just popping in, put your start sit questions in the bottom of the chat, and I'll get to them. You see me answering the chats. This is what we're all about. We're making it happen. And if you especially want to support the channel, you can do super chats. Super chats, I think there's a couple of them for a couple bucks, and then they can escalate, whatever. You support the channel however you'd like. If you want to get me on Did It, I have the link. It's just video chatting, and you can just video chat me on Did It, and we can do that. Not in the middle of the live stream. I have my phone off during the middle of the live stream. But if you want to video chat me and get fantasy football advice, premium fantasy football advice through your phone, we can just video chat there. And I'll be available most of the weekend. It's just going to be a chill weekend, me and my kids. So we'll be able to pull aside a couple minutes, and you can go in the Did It app and just chat me and video me, and we'll talk for a couple minutes, and we'll get you the best advice that we can get you. All right. So appreciate y'all doing that. Gooner boy, would you trade Elijah Moore for Joshua Kelly? And if I can pull it off, Javonte Williams just lost Dobbins. Oh man, you lost Dobbins. Oh man. Look, as an aside, before I answer your question, Gooner boy, I have 35% J.K. Dobbins and underdog, and it's destroying me. It's destroying me. He was just too good of a pick at that spot. He's just too good of a selection, too good of a value. One of the best efficiency running backs last year, despite the injury and coming back from the injury. His juke rate was high. His true yards per carry was so high. Yards per touch was so good. J.K. Dobbins. And I've been on a bunch of best ball teams, in the FFPC and DraftKings. So it's crushing. It's just crushing. Anyways, you lost Dobbins too, and running backs are David Montgomery, which is fine. I think Montgomery is a fine running back too. Jaylen Warren, Tank Bigsby, Roschon, Zach Moss, and Gainwell. Yeah, I think you're really hurting for that running back too. I don't think you can plug in any of those running backs aside from David Montgomery into a running back spot. So trading Elijah Moore for Joshua Kelly, I think, is the move, even if it's a short-term one, because you're hoping by week 3, it's Roschon Johnson or it's Kenneth Gainwell that you can plug in. And I know that you're thinking to yourself, like, oh, this is like a short-term loss. Like, what if Elijah Moore is good? But here's the thing. What if it's a couple-week injury for Austin Eckler? Then you got Josh Kelly for a couple weeks. Also, another point to consider is this is a week-to-week game. You want to win each week. You don't want to say, well, I'll take the loss now, but I'll try to make it up later. You might not be able to make it up later, right? And so it is a week-to-week game, and you might just be able to trade for something later if you need to make up for it. Who knows? Just who knows? So I would do that trade to try to get a mid running back too, because none of those other running backs are good bets to see safe volume. Like, we think that Zach Moss might be able to, but we're not confident with that. Jaylen Warren might get 8 touches. Bigsby might get 7-8 touches. Roschon Johnson probably gets 8 to 10 touches. David Montgomery is the only one who we can pretty safely project to get 15 plus touches in this game. And Josh Kelly is the other one. So Elijah Moore for Josh Kelly, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that. And if you can get Javonte Williams, I think that's the longer term answer. If you can get Williams instead of Josh Kelly, because Williams projects to have a longer seasonal value than Josh Kelly. But that is how I would approach this situation, Gooner boy. Go Jin again, a half PPR, second flex. Do we go Samaje Perine, Jahan Dotson, or Justice Hill? This is easy. This is very easy one, Go Jin. Thank you for asking it. It's a relief when people ask me questions that are very easy to answer. It's Jahan Dotson. Dotson outplayed Terry McLaurin last week, and Dotson is also set up. He's poised for a very strong matchup this week. I know that it's Denver, but Terry McLaurin's going to draw some of the best coverage, and Terry McLaurin still hampered by that turf toe injury, which is usually a couple weeks of his production being affected anyways. So give me Jahan Dotson in this matchup where they are road dogs. The Washington Commanders are road dogs. And Dotson was commanding targets. If you remember in the first half of the game, Dotson had 5 targets in the first half of this week 1 game. So give me Jahan Dotson. Give me Jahan Dotson as your second flex. Baby Santa, would you trade James Conner and Evans, Godwin, or Mike Williams for T? No. I mean, not unless you are really, really safe at running back. Like you'd probably need studs. You'd probably need 2 RB1s to be okay with that. Yeah, you're probably still starting James Conner. And I don't know if T. Higgins is the upgrade that we want even into week 2. Right? Cincinnati does take on Baltimore in a slugfest at home. But remember, we also thought that, the Browns game would be a little bit more of a slugfest than it was. And T. Higgins, we like what he does. His ceiling is probably wide receiver 8, 10 on the week. But I don't see a pathway for him to be wide receiver 5, which is, the same type of ceiling that Mike Evans and Chris Godwin or Mike Williams offers. And I think that it's safer to play Mike Williams with Austin Eckler projected out, because Mike Williams, as I said earlier in the live stream, is he's playing more in the slot. And with Eckler out, we've seen Herbert look to the slot more often. So give me James Conner plus that side instead of T. Higgins. T. Higgins or Mike Williams this week? Man, y'all are really into this Mike Williams stuff. T. Higgins, straight up. Yeah, give me some Mike Williams. Give me some Mike Williams this week. I think I'm taking a stand on Williams. The Chargers are 2.5-point favorites. Chargers are 2.5-point favorites in this matchup. So I'm here for the Chargers over the Tennessee Titans on the road. Yeah, and with Eckler expected to miss, I like the volume, the pass volume that we could get. Okay. Go Jin said, I literally saw the Matt Kelly episode in September 3rd. 12 days ago. I'm so sorry, Go Jin. Yeah, so what'd you think? I'd love to get your takes on who was right on a lot of those takes. Speaking of which, Jose said, Bradley, your Ridley pick is looking real good. He looks like an alpha. Yeah, he is. Yeah, he is. I don't know if y'all watched the Mind of Mansion episode with Matt Kelly, but during that episode, Matt asked me for a truther player, and I said it's Calvin Ridley. Ridley is my truther player. I've been pounding the table for Dwayne McBride. I have a reputation in the fantasy industry for Dwayne McBride, and he's done nothing, but it's fine. But a lot of people in the industry, a lot of well-respected fantasy analysts were out on Calvin Ridley. Billy Muzio. Out on Calvin Ridley. And it's clear from the preseason usage, and it's clear from week 1 usage that Calvin Ridley owns the air yard share. He owns the target share. He owns the red zone targets. He looks the part. Like, there's film. Okay, Jetpack Galileo, if you look him up on Twitter, he actually went through some of the film of Calvin Ridley and identified that Ridley has been absolutely destroying defensive backs with his moves, creating 5 yards of separation. And that's all Trevor Lawrence needs, And so this is the first time that Trevor Lawrence has an alpha. Christian Kirk is not an alpha's alpha. He's not a dog that eats first. In fact, that's why you shouldn't be playing much of Christian Kirk in your flexes, right? I don't think a bounce back game is in store for Christian Kirk. Like, the best case scenario for Christian Kirk is 6 catches for 60 yards and a touchdown, right? That's probably the ceiling for Christian Kirk. And if you're like, well, that's what my chips in are for, so be it. The problem with Christian Kirk is that he's now bumped to the bench for 2 wide receiver sets. He only plays in 3 wide receiver sets, and he plays out of the slot. And when he plays in the slot, it's like with Evan Ingram also on the field. It's Zay Jones and it's Calvin Ridley who are playing on the outside, which I was drafting a lot of Zay Jones this offseason. So my truther player this year was Calvin Ridley, and I made the case that it made sense as to why he went through his mental health crisis. Like, if you didn't read his Players Tribune article, I'm pretty sure it was in the Players Tribune, take a read of it. It is riveting. It is heart-wrenching. You understand why this guy went through what he did and reacted the way he did and was not in the right headspace. So, like, as a human being, it was like a choice for me to be merciful because I understood. And then it was also looking at his previous profile, like his profile of he had 2 consecutive years of median 25% target shares. He played alongside Julio Jones, who was still producing at that time. And Julio Jones missed a couple games, but Calvin Ridley still crushed even with Julio there. And then even in his injured season, Ridley was still a median 25% target share type of player. And those are the stickiest of the stats year to year. So if you're looking at who was going to eat first, it was clearly going to be Calvin Ridley. This made sense. And so, Jose, thank you. Yeah, even second round Calvin Ridley is feeling pretty good right now, given the L's that have been taken in the first round, right? Or even the early second round. Garrett Wilson is now a mid-pack wide receiver 3 with the Zach Wilson starting and Aaron Rodgers injury. Cooper Kupp has been out. Travis Kelce has been out. Mark Andrews, who is being drafted in the second round of FFPC league, some first round of Mark Andrews, mind you. So the Calvin Ridley pick is looking really good. And I'm here for it. Give me all of that. And as Jose said, if you like the content and you find this helpful, make sure you guys are hitting that subscribe button. Let's keep her going. Slammy from Twitch. Do you think DJ Moore is a solid flex option this week? Solid? No, but I think he'll bounce back a little bit, right? The Chicago Bears. The Chicago Bears. They look so bad. They take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And, thinking about what happened last week, Minnesota was able to get Justin Jefferson 150 yards. DJ Moore probably is going to get 70. I think he'll have a bounce back game. But it's hard for you to say, hey, Justin Fields, I know you haven't been good at throwing the ball. Why don't you try to throw the ball to DJ Moore? And maybe he can connect like he did in the preseason on yards after catch type of deal. But I'm not confident that he can do that. And so I don't think he's solid flex. I think he's a desperation flex. He's probably, a player that I'm not looking to start in my lineup. But if I have some shares of him, he might make some of my lineups in the best ball leagues. I'm not confident with DJ Moore. I don't think you should be. There's not reasons to think that, we need to be confident in DJ Moore. Plus, the over-under for this game, Vegas does not expect that it is a high-scoring game. Over-under is 41 for this game. So I'm not looking at the Chicago Bears Tampa Bay Buccaneers game and saying, you know what, I want to get as many pieces of this matchup as possible. No, DJ Moore is someone that if you got someone in your flex that you can flex out, like, I start Javonte Williams over DJ Moore, right? You start James Conner over DJ Moore as a flex play. So no, I don't think DJ Moore is a solid flex play. And he was an avoid for me because he was going like wide receiver 18, wide receiver 22 in some drafts. And I couldn't get behind that. I was only drafting DJ Moore as like in the wide receiver 30s or late wide receiver 20s. I did not want DJ Moore unless he was a value. And right now it's looking like we're going to get inconsistent games from DJ Moore. We might get, a 7 for 150 game from him, but that's not something that we can bank on or that we can say, you know what, this is going to be the week that DJ Moore goes off. I think DJ Moore is going to end up being more of a best ball play than a consistent week-to-week starter, which is what, we saw previously in Carolina, that DJ Moore was had some spike weeks in him, but was not a consistent producer week to week and was hard to put into your lineup as a trustworthy flex candidate. So no, there you go. Gooner Boy, if I can't pull off the trade, who'd you play out of Moss, Roschon, Warren, or Bigsby? Probably Roschon. Unless we get word that Moss is actually starting. I know that there's been a lot of chatter about Moss getting some play. But if he's declared the starter, we say if we get wind that Moss is going to start, we'll start Moss, but it's not confident. Give me some Roschon if that's going to be the case. And maybe it's this week that Roschon takes over for Khalil Herbert. Roschon looked the part. He had the better PFF rushing grade. He had the better PFF receiving grade. He had a lot of catches. He's just he's the complete package of running back compared to Khalil Herbert. And Herbert had some nice metrics last season for sure. But I think he profiles as more of a change of pace back. Roschon Johnson profiles as he can do all three downs type of back. So, and that may be what Chicago wants to jumpstart their offense, is to lean on a little bit more of Roschon Johnson and then get a thunder and lightning type of deal going with Khalil Herbert. So Moss for the opportunity, but I think Roschon is the best of these four to get the opportunity plus efficiency. Okay. What about that earlier trade for Kupp? Looking to trade depth, hoping Saquon and Pollard can carry me. Did I miss one from you, Santa Baby? Would you? I'm scrolling back, and I don't see a question about trade in the chat. Maybe I missed it, but sorry about that, Baby Santa. Okay. AJ Brown versus Devonta Smith. Look, the box score is very different from what happened on the field. AJ Brown had a touchdown called back. By on a holding call from Rashad Penny, which is why we are not happy with Rashad Penny. Right. Devonta Smith ended up having 4 catches in this game, 5 targets, but there were some pretty big ones. 32.5 yards per reception. He had the touchdown. This was a spike week game for Devonta Smith. 131 receiving yards on 4 receptions. That's not something that, we're banking on. But I think what this speaks to is, instead of how good Devonta Smith's spike week is and how reproducible it is, I think this speaks more to the reproducibility of starting your elite wide receivers or bumping them up in your rankings against the Minnesota Vikings. Who are the next wide receivers that face the Vikings? Oh, you're going to love these. It's the Chargers in week 3. So you get Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Maybe without Austin Eckler in week 3. We will see. Week 4 is Carolina. Meh. Week 5, Minnesota gets Kansas City. You can think Travis Kelce is ready to roll in week 5 from that knee injury. Oh boy. Kelce might win some people's seasons in week 5. Week 6, DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore becomes a much more stable shot to play in week 6. San Francisco, you're starting all of your 49ers against Minnesota in week 7. Week 8 at Green Bay. Yeah, you're starting Christian Watson for sure, and then maybe taking some flex shots on Romeo Doubs or Jaden Reed at that point, probably Jaden Reed. Week 9, you're starting Drake London, you're starting Kyle Pitts against Minnesota. You're going on and on. Chris Olave in week 10, absolutely. Michael Thomas as well becomes a strong flex consideration. Week 11, Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton. Week 12, we get Chicago again. Yeah, so you've got some really nice plays, and then a spike week possibility for Devontae Adams, right? I think we're pretty safe to plug in 100+ receiving yards pretty easily for each of the starting wide receivers against the Minnesota Vikings. So let's keep going. Jordan _ should I trade Fields since I have Anthony Richardson? I think you can. Anthony Richardson didn't have a great game in week 1, and he was still the quarterback 4. He had 63% completion percentage, like nothing special. He rushed for a touchdown. He threw for a touchdown. He finished as the quarterback 4 on the week. Yeah. You can trade Justin Fields and you can get something back in return. Probably pretty nice, probably starter level for Justin Fields, because there's got to be a Justin Fields believer in your league, right? There's got to be. Okay, let's keep her moving. Puka's injury worry you or no? I'm happy I picked him up. Your high praise of vindicated my decision. Let's go. Yeah, so Puka Nacua, for those who missed it, did end up on an injury report. He did not practice yesterday. He is expected to play here in week number 2, but the injury does worry me, but that's not why I would bench him in week 2. Like you bid all this fab on him. The reason why you're probably not going to play him in week 2 unless you're desperate is because of the San Francisco 49ers defense. So I think you're starting Kyren Williams as a flex play. Tyler Higbee, you're going to start at your tight end. But the Puka Nacua, I think you're going to see some targets his way. I would be expecting about 6 to 8 targets, but the efficiency is going to be down probably 4 or 5 receptions, maybe 50, 60 yards. I think we're cutting that in half, and we're going to wait for a better matchup to put Puka Nacua back into our lineups, because we've definitely seen what Puka Nacua can do. But my concern is that the 49ers defense is that good, right? And so, like, looking at the Rams schedule, I think you'll feel better about Nacua at Cincinnati. You'll feel better about Nacua at Indy. You'll feel great about Nacua, against Arizona. Yeah, I think you'll feel better about starting him later on, but San Francisco week 2 is going to be pretty tough. So that's, I think, more of the concern for me. But the injury is also like a little extra. Like, it's probably the tiebreaker between Puka and some other flex plays that you're considering. Like, you're playing Javonte Williams, you're playing James Conner over Puka Nacua this week, even though Nacua 15 targets, 10 receptions, 119 yards in week 1. All right. Nifty, I'll do my best to answer questions for trades. It's hard not seeing all of the rosters. What you can do is set up an appointment to do a Did It phone call with me, and we can set that up, and you can video chat me and we can talk through. And one of the cool features of Did It is you can share your screen on your phone, or if you're doing it on your tablet, you can share your screen of like what you're looking at. So you can show the app of like what your team roster is and everything, which is really cool. So that's something that I encourage you, like tomorrow and Sunday morning. Yeah, like you can ask me about those things on Did It. You support me that way for sure. Full PPR flex: Brian Robinson, Christian Kirk, Gabe Davis, or Elijah Moore. I really like Gabe Davis this week against the Vegas Raiders. Okay. I want to be starting Gabe Davis in this week because he only had 4 targets in week 1, but that was predictable. We knew Gabe Davis was going to not do well against the Jets because they're the Jets. So number 1, they were at the Jets. Number 2 is it was against 2 of the best cornerbacks in the NFL. I think both Sauce Gardner and blanking on the other cornerback's name, but both starting quarterbacks were top 15 PFF graded coverage cornerback. So wherever Gabe Davis played wasn't great, but his yards per reception still 16. So he's maintaining his deep target possibility. He played 94% of snaps. You can't be unhappy with that. And this game is in Buffalo against the Raiders, who are traveling to Buffalo. And Josh Allen, right, did not look good in this first game. And I think we want to be playing Gabe Davis. Like, Davis has the runway and pathway for major spike weeks. So we want to be starting Gabe Davis this week. We've seen major spike weeks before in his past, and coming off these bad weeks, there's no injury issue with Gabe Davis. There's no usage issues with Gabe Davis. The target issue was predictable because, I predicted it. If you read my player profile article that I put out in preparation for week 1, I had said that Gabe Davis on average finished as the wide receiver 54 the last couple games against the New York Jets. He finished as wide receiver 65 in this week. So I think he's going to crush week 2 against the Vegas Raiders. He's going to have a couple big catches, including a touchdown. So give me Gabe Davis as the spike week king. Christian Kirk is not the answer. Brian Robinson is a floor volume play for running back. Maybe he'll fall in the end zone and that'll salvage, the flex appeal. I'm not huge into Elijah Moore this week, given the pressure that Pittsburgh is going to put on the Cleveland Browns. I think will be, and especially since Jack Conklin is now out for the season with the knee injury. So the offensive line is going to feel even more of the pressure. Yeah, give me Gabe Davis of those 4. All right, y'all, if you like the content, you found this helpful, make sure you hit that red subscribe button. And you tell I'm moving my way through the comments. Ryan Decker is up next. I'm going to keep crushing it. So he wants to know, should I start James Cook or Garrett Wilson? Should I pick up Hollywood, Deontay, or Roshan? I can pick up 2 willing to drop Dion and Quentin. Yeah, you can drop Quentin Johnston. You can drop Deion Jackson. You can pick up Hollywood Brown, Deontay. I think Deontay, you can just stash on your IR if you can do that. And then if you're starting one of these players, James Cook or Garrett Wilson, I think you're starting James Cook again, because I like this Buffalo Bills, Las Vegas Raiders matchup for fantasy. Looking at the matchup, let me close all that. Yeah, the over under for this game is 47, and the Bills are 8.5 point favorites in this game. And we saw James Cook just get a bunch, like 15 plus touches in the previous game. So give me all of that. Give me James Cook over Garrett Wilson. Wilson is a mid-pack wide receiver 3. And you're like, but Bradley, how do you know that? How do you know that Zach Wilson is just going to, make Garrett Wilson a mid-pack wide receiver 3? Because we've seen it before. Zach Wilson last year played 9 games. During those 9 games, of that 9-game span, Zach Wilson had the worst PFF pass grade. He had a 54% completion percentage. He had a 6 to 7 touchdown to interception ratio. He had the highest turnover-worthy play percentage. And then Garrett Wilson was 31st in receiving yards, 32nd in receptions, and 30th in yards per route run, and 0 touchdowns in that 9-game span with Zach Wilson. So no, I don't think there's a lot of upside to be had with Garrett Wilson and Zach Wilson behind center. The best that Garrett Wilson can do for you is be like a flex play, which is why you want James Cook, because Cook can enter into that running back 2 area and get a lot more touches. So give me James Cook over Garrett Wilson this week, especially in a matchup where we like Buffalo against the Vegas Raiders. Tommy Talaga. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate you. And if y'all are new, make sure you hit that red subscribe button on YouTube. Make sure you follow me on Twitch. I go live a couple times a week. Turn on the notifications if you'd like. What I do is I record this video, I chop it up, and then I post the individual questions usually for people to search and find out, because maybe they have similar questions to you. And that helps my channel. It also gets you a little bit more notoriety as we're going through the channel. So there we go. Tommy, need a flex wide receiver, Christian Watson, Dubs, Tyler Lockett, Jamal Williams. I also have DK in my lineup. Cool. Watson is I would estimate 50-50 to play. Dobbs has also been limited this week. Lockett left the game, but I think came back. He should be fine for this week. And Jamal Williams. So if I'm flexing Tyler Lockett. Yeah, I think it's pretty easy. Even with DK in the lineup, that is just fine. Right. Seattle. Seattle this week takes on the Detroit Lions in Detroit. The over-under for this game is 47.5. We want pieces of this matchup. And remember last time Seattle played the Detroit Lions, right? TJ Hawkinson went off for like 30-something fantasy points. So there are fantasy points to be had in this type of matchup. It's an indoor game at Detroit. It's going to be a lot of fun. So give me some Tyler Lockett. I don't care if DK Metcalf is in that lineup. It's fine for me. Okay, Connor plus either Evans, Godwin, Mike Williams for Kupp. Yeah, I'm not going out of my way to stash for Kupp. He could be an absolute zero, and we haven't heard anything. We haven't heard any good news at all regarding Cooper Kupp, right? It's been over a week since we heard any rumblings about Kupp's return. Last we heard was that it's a possible nerve issue. We do not want to be messing around with that. I'd rather keep them around. Okay. I'd rather keep those guys and play for these weeks. Okay. Foot 38, 84, 85. I have Deshaun Watson, Barkley, Chubb, Debo, Mike Evans, Mark Andrews, Josh Kelly. Who should I trade for? Maybe you can trade Joshua Kelly and Debo to upgrade your wide receiver one spot, or you trade Mike Evans and Josh Kelly to upgrade your wide receiver two spot. Either way, I think wide receiver is a pretty flat tier for you at this juncture. You're pretty happy with how your running backs and tight ends are set up, but I think your wide receivers are too spike weaky in that they're more likely to bust. I would try to find a more consistent wide receiver too. Maybe trade Mike Evans and Josh Kelly. See if you can get Keenan Allen. That might be too big of an ask, but you want if Deontay Johnson wasn't hurt, we should have gone for like Deontay Johnson. But nevertheless, I think that's the type of player that you're wanting, someone who can get you consistently a high floor, partnered with a Debo Samuel who can access a high ceiling. That's how I would approach it. All right, we got another flex question. Joshua Kelly, AJ Dillon, Gabe Davis, Hollywood Brown, go Pack Go. That's right. Go Pack Go. You can see, well, formerly Lazard and Robert Tonyan back there, but that's a David Bakhtiari jersey back over there. David Bakhtiari. That's right. Lots of fun. Go Pack Go. But unfortunately, I won't be starting AJ Dillon unless we hear that Aaron Jones is out for this game. If Aaron Jones is a full go for this game, then we're starting Gabe Davis. I think we're still starting Gabe Davis over Joshua Kelly. But if we find out that Aaron Jones is out, I think we're starting AJ Dillon. So I would go AJ Dillon, Gabe Davis, Josh Kelly in that order. Hollywood Brown is not the one I'm considering right now. Angel Herrera, I lost JK, but I have Barkley and Monty. How do you feel about Tank, Roshan, Charbonnet? Woo. I think those are fine handcuffs to have. I'm okay with that. I'm happy about that. Yeah. We're happy about Tank, Roshan, Charbonnet for sure. Yeah. But you're only starting two running backs, Barkley and Monty. Monty is a solid running back 2. Barkley, solid running back 1. Ready to roll. Should I start Deshaun Watson or Anthony Richardson? This is pretty good. We're going with Anthony Richardson. I know the Houston Texans played inspired defense in week 1, but Anthony Richardson is going to crush in week 2. We're here for that. Start your Anthony Richardson with a lot of confidence. Week 2. Pick 2, Kenneth Walker, James Cook, or Joshua Kelly. Ooh, okay. I think we're going Kenneth Walker over Joshua Kelly. The question is, are we going James Cook over Joshua Kelly? I think we're going James Cook. Kenneth Walker, James Cook over Joshua Kelly this week. Full PPR. PPR league at running back, I got Montgomery, Akers, Brees, and Joshua Kelly. P. Ryan, which two do you start? Brees Hall, you're starting Brees Hall. You are starting Brees Hall. You're starting Brees Hall. I think you have Josh Kelly. I'll have Josh Kelly over David Montgomery this week. We're not going to start P. Ryan or Akers in of these running backs. So I think we're going Brees Hall, Joshua Kelly, Montgomery in that order. Okay? Cool. CL Sports Cards. Also, what should I keep for the rest of the year? Watson or Anthony Richardson? Yeah, we're keeping Anthony Richardson for sure. We're just going to continue to ride the 100th percentile athlete, the quarterback, the Cam Newton build, the Josh Allen mold. Give me that type of player. That's who I'm going. Angel Herrera, hit the like button. It's 11 p.m. on a Friday. He's answering fantasy questions. That's right, guys. If you like the content, you find it helpful, hit the like, hit the subscribe, share it with your friends. If you hate the content, share it with your enemies. There you go. Also, if you hate the content, like what I'll ask is that you, if you hate the content, like thanks anyways for watching. Like I appreciate it. Like a lot of people will come into my comments and be like, oh, this is a bad call. Oh, I don't like this call. Blah, 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 blah. And you know what my response is? Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching my stuff. I appreciate it. You spent time out of your day to watch my stuff. Of all of the people you could be watching and spending your time with, you decided to spend it with me. And then you decided to comment on it. And I'm not upset about it. I've monetized the channel, so y'all watching the videos, even if you hate them, right, it's still helpful. So I appreciate y'all doing that. If you like the content, hit the subscribe button on the YouTube channel. If you don't like it, share it with your enemies because then you think it'll mislead them. Please, it's very, very funny. And then if you leave nasty comments, thank you for watching the videos. I appreciate you spending time with me. Because I do. It's a lot of fun. And it also teaches me some humility, which so for those who don't know, my day job, I work at a high school, and there's I am very humbled every day by some of the things that the kiddos say. Some things I can't even share. Like I wouldn't even be in the right spot to be able to share some of the things that the kiddos say, but it is wild how I'm kept humble both at school, in my job at my school, and then also in the YouTube comments. Some of y'all are wild in the comments. If you don't believe me, look at some of the comments. So let's go. Okay. Let's keep her rolling. Okay. Yeah, so if you like the content, hit that red subscribe button. Appreciate all y'all. Okay. What should I do if I have Garrett Wilson? I mean, you probably drafted him in second round of your fantasy league. I drafted a lot of Garrett Wilson. It sucks. It does suck. But it depends on the matchup of who else is in your flex play. You might not have anyone better. And you're just going to have to live with the lump that is Garrett Wilson, like the mid wide receiver 3 that he's going to be the rest of the season. And he might have some stinky games, and that's just what it's going to be. Like Garrett Wilson's still going to get his 1,000 yards on the season, 1,100 yards, whatever it is. But the downgrade to Zach Wilson is substantial, just massively substantial. So I think you're stuck because I don't think anyone's buying Garrett Wilson. Maybe there's a wild Jets fan in your league, but I think you're just stuck with him because you can't drop him. You're not going to drop him. I don't think he's droppable at all. I mean, unless you're in like a 6-team league or something like that. But even then, it's depends on the bench size. And I don't see a scenario. You're caught in an awkward spot because we weren't anticipating this being the pathway for Garrett Wilson this year. So I think you're stuck. I'm sorry. Smile Sky. What is my take on Sky Moore and Evan Engram? Sky Moore is not good, and he needs to prove that he's good before we put him into our lineups. Like, he needs to put on multiple games in a row of earning targets, earning snaps, running routes, making plays and catches, and he had the opportunity to do so with Travis Kelce out. In fact, he took a big stinker. So no, Sky Moore is droppable in your normal size leagues. Let him be someone else's problem. Let someone else have to deal with the fact that Sky Moore might be on their bench and they're tempted to start him. You know, there's the classic prayer is lead us not into temptation. Let someone else be led into the temptation of drafting or playing Sky Moore. Yeah. We don't have any reason to move a Sky Moore into our rosters. You can drop him, let him be someone else's problem. Let the person who's picking him up think that they have something. They don't. Sky Moore is not good until he shows that he is, because for now we haven't seen it. We have not seen it from Sky Moore. Evan Engram, on the other hand, you're probably going to have to start Evan Engram here and there, but we know what Evan Engram is. He's a spike week king with a really low floor on a good offense. And so a tight end on a good offense can fall into the end zone. He's a high A dot type of player, yards after catch type of player. Evan Engram has put up multiple top 10 seasons in his career at the tight end position. So of course we're going to be considering starting Evan Engram week to week. The problem is that Evan Ingram's floor is very scary. So you're probably starting Evan Engram. You probably don't have better choices. Like, you could consider starting Hunter Henry over Evan Engram. I mean, look, I was right on Hunter Henry as well. That was a player that Billy Muzio and I got into discussion with over the summer. And in one of our podcasts, Billy was like, yeah, I have him at like tight end 23, 24. And I was like, I have Hunter Henry at tight end 13. He's like, explain yourself. And I'm like, well, it's easy. It's really easy to explain. Mike Gesicki, who plays tight end, doesn't play tight end. He plays wide receiver. Hunter Henry doesn't have competition for tight end snaps. The competition is gone. Jonnu Smith is gone. So Mike Gesicki is not going to be an impediment to Evan Ingram's fantasy path, or to Hunter Henry's fantasy pathway. But Hunter Henry might be an impediment to Evan Engram being in your starting lineup, because Hunter Henry led all tight ends last week in receiving yards. Wild stuff. Anyways, should we start Jake Ferguson or Cole Kmet? Oh, this is gross. Carlin, why are you doing this, dude? Oh, man, I feel so bad for you that you have to make this decision. Jake Ferguson led all tight ends in week 1 in expected fantasy point differential, meaning that he had the highest, the most negative differential among all tight ends. They expected him to score like 16 fantasy points, and he scored like 4. So bad. It's so bad. I think you roll out Jake Ferguson because of the expectation, but it's gross. It's gross. Sorry, Carlin, that you're dealing with this. George Play 01, JSN or Zay Jones. We're doing JSN this week. He's another week removed from the hand injury. He played okay in week 1. He earned a few targets. We can't be unhappy with what we saw in just this first game. I mean, it paled in comparison to Jordan Addison, because Addison played very well in week 1, even on limited snaps. But we look at what Jackson Smith and Jigba did: 3 receptions, 13 yards. I mean, it's not great, but at least he got out there. He played 21 snaps, pass snaps, compared to Tyler Lockett, who played 30, and DK Metcalf, who played 31. So he played about 70% of what the starters did. He played about 70%, but I see he's playing 80% in the slot. So he's only coming in on 3 wide receiver sets. That might be limiting, but I still think that JSN is the more dynamic player. If he gets the ball in his hands, that could be really great. Yeah, I think in week 2, we're going to see more unleashing of Jaxon Smith-Njigba. It's Detroit Lions indoor game. We're not going to have to worry about the weather in this game. As I said, another week removed from the injury. Zay Jones fell into the end zone on a miraculous catch. It was a beautiful catch. If you guys haven't seen the Zay Jones week 1 touchdown catch, it was gorgeous. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. But I would roll with Jaxon Smith-Njigba over Zay Jones, but barely. Like, it is close. It is really close, George Play. So I don't mind if you start Zay Jones, but I think Jaxon Smith-Njigba is the lean I would give. Zay Jones is going to play more snaps. He's going to play more snaps, but I think JSN is the better profile, and I think he's going to be a better play in week 2, week 1, only 54 receiving grade and a 36 drop grade because his hands were not there in week 1. Because remember, he broke his hand in the preseason. So I think in week 2 we'll have better JSN, but I don't mind if you want to start Zay Jones. You're going to start Zay Flowers, but Zay Jones, I don't mind it, but I would still lean JSN. Whew. All right, let's keep going. We're crushing tonight. Yo, sit 1 PPR, Miles Sanders, David Montgomery, or Breece Hall. We're going to sit Miles Sanders. David Montgomery is going to get the volume that you like, and Breece Hall is an efficiency god. Last week, week 1, Breece Hall, 13.1 yards after contact per attempt. That is the highest weekly yards after contact per attempt rate of any running back with 5 or more carries since week 7 of 2022. That was Breece Hall with 15.1. Breece Hall is an efficiency yards after contact monster, and he does not need to lead the team in touches to lead the team in yards, to lead the team in running back fantasy points. Dalvin Cook is nothing special. If anything, Dalvin Cook is allowing Breece Hall to not need to carry the load. Another point is that Breece Hall averaged 19 fantasy points per game with Zach Wilson last year. In the games Zach Wilson played and Breece Hall played, Breece Hall averaged 19 fantasy points per game. Breece Hall only played, you're like, but Bradley, Breece Hall was the lead back by far, blah, blah, blah. He was crushing. The average game snaps that Breece Hall played, 55% during that span of Zach Wilson games with Breece Hall. Hall averaged 19 fantasy points per game, only 55% snap share. This is an efficiency play. Breece Hall, you're starting Breece Hall. You're playing Breece Hall. You play Breece Hall. You play Breece Hall. Play Breece Hall. Super C and B challengers, play Breece Hall. It does not matter. It does not matter. He is an absolute baller, right? And the Jets this week take on the Dallas Cowboys. I don't care. The Dallas Cowboys will stuff your Dalvin Cooks. Breece Hall is going to get some room to play. He's going to get room. He'll make room. He is very good. And just because he can't house an 85-yard touchdown doesn't mean he's bad. If anything, the fact that he was able to get that far with that type of injury, it just means he needs to continue to condition. And that's okay. We're fine with Breece Hall. Start Breece Hall, play Breece Hall, sit Miles Sanders. Who'd you flex? Half PPR. Kelly, Garrett, or Javonte Williams. We're going to play Joshua Kelly. Joshua Kelly over Javonte this week and over Garrett Wilson. Okay. Also, Broncos, Giants, Browns, Bucks D this week. Appreciate it. Appreciate you, Super C and B challengers. We're going with the Giants. The Giants get the Arizona Cardinals this week. The Cardinals are bad. Joshua Dobbs played valiantly, but that was a 1 game. You can prepare for weeks and weeks and weeks for game 1. It's how you're going to take a short week, or a regular week for a first-year coach with a third string equivalent of a third string quarterback with very little chemistry with the receivers. Yeah, give me the Giants. Give me the Giants. What's my outlook on Madison rest of season? You're finding ways to not put Madison in your lineup. I think it's clear that the Minnesota Vikings do not want Madison to be a focal point at all in this Minnesota offense. The Vikings are one of the pass heaviest teams in the NFL. They're one of the pass heaviest teams in the NFL. Madison is not an efficient runner. He's not an efficient pass catcher either. So he doesn't do anything great. The Vikings don't do what he does very often. And like we talk about, like, what are the spike opportunities? Could it be receptions? No. Could it be efficiency? No. Could it be volume? No. Could it be goal line work? And think about it. Let's just think about it for 1 second. If you're at the goal line and you're the Minnesota Vikings and you have Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson, and Jordan Addison on your team, are you going to run the ball with Alexander Madison? Might as well just sneak it with Kirk Cousins at that point, right? Now, does Madison lose his job? Meh. Does Madison lose his job? I don't know if he does, but if he keeps it up, he might lose it. And then it's a question of, is it Ty Chandler or is it DeWayne McBride? Please, 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 for all of my best ball drafts, please let it be DeWayne McBride. Please, please, please. Okay. Anyways, it's murky. The future is murky. If we're shaking the magic 8-ball, the future is murky for Alexander Madison. The future is bleak for his fantasy output. He doesn't have efficiency. He doesn't have volume. He doesn't have pass catching, and he's not a good option at the goal line. No pathways for sustained success for Alexander Madison. We would need seismic shifts in what he does for us to have confidence in Alexander Madison. Okay, JD, someone's giving me Jamar Chase and Cordero Patterson, Najee Harrison, and Alvin Kamara. Smash. Smash, 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 smash. Hit that smash. Hit the smash button. You should have smashed it. Whatever. Was he drunk? like after you accept the trade, like, all right, dude, like, you just gave Jamar Chase. Okay. Like, no takebacks. Like, no takebacks. No takebacks. Matt jumps in the chat and says, that's a smash accept, JD. Yup, for sure. So, JD, you should have smashed it, like, into oblivion. I hope you, like, smash it so hard that your phone screen breaks, because, like, that's how hard you should have hit that smash button. Smash accept button. And it's also how hard you guys should hit the red subscribe button for the YouTube channel. If you like the content and you find this helpful, make sure you hit that red subscribe button, everyone. Should I start Khalil Herbert, or Roschon Johnson? Oh, this is gross. This is gross. Because the Bears take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Buccaneers have a really good front seven. Herbert, though, is a very efficient running back, even though he had a bad week 1. But Roschon Johnson played better, and I think the Chicago Bears are looking to get him a few more touches. So let's get Roschon Johnson in there. I think this is going to be a game with a little bit more high scoring than what the DK Sportsbook has it at. DK Sportsbook has this Chicago Bears Tampa Bay Buccaneers game over under 41. I would take the over on 41 for the Bears versus Buccaneers. I think this is going to be a much more high scoring game than 41 points, team points. And the Buccaneers are favored by 2.5 points. So the Bears are going to be down. The bad game script for the Bears. Give me Roschon Johnson in the PPR realm, especially. There you go. Put on hip hop. Okay. Trey S. Evening, brother. Full PPR. Start 2. Garrett Wilson, Pittman, Elijah Moore, Rashad White, Javonte Williams, James Cook. Thanks. Good luck this week. Also, thank you for asking the question, Trey. Appreciate you. Hope you're subscribed. And we're starting James Cook for sure. And I think we need to shift our opinion. I was out on, and I'll admit this, like I'll take my L's. I'll talk through my process. I was out on Michael Pittman. Okay. I was out on Michael Pittman this year. But in week 1, it was clear that Michael Pittman played very well. 8 receptions, 97 yards, had a touchdown. He played all of the most wide receiver snaps. Okay. He played 80% out wide, 51 yards after the catch. So more than half of his yards came after the catch, which is what you want for Michael Pittman, right? You don't want him to be taking on the Alec Pierce role, which is just run deep and we'll see if you can do it. Yeah, no. No. Michael Pittman, I think, is the play. He's going to be a wide receiver 2 for us moving forward. And I think we start James Cook. So those are the 2 play. Rashad White is bad. Javonte Williams is still splitting in favor of Javonte Williams, but he's still splitting significantly enough that I'm worried about that usage. And then also the Washington defensive line is always a tough thing. You know, it's always tough to run against Washington. Garrett Wilson is a mid-pack wide receiver 3. Same thing with Elijah Moore. Give me Michael Pittman and James Cook for this week. Should I flex Herbert, Roschon, or Hopkins? I think Hopkins is going to be out for this week. He's officially questionable with the ankle injury, but if you look at the video and him not practicing this week, I think he's going to be out. So I would prepare for DeAndre Hopkins to not be available. I would be surprised if DeAndre Hopkins plays to full capacity, if at all, this week. Roschon Johnson is the play over Khalil Herbert. I made my argument for that earlier in the live stream, so just go back a couple minutes and you'll be able to see it. And let's see. Michael J. Tad Rose Ross official. Appreciate you jumping in the chat. Would you start Joe Burrow or Deshaun Watson, considering my wide receiver 1 is T. Higgins? Should I start Watson as a hedge? No, I would go with the stack. You'd go Burrow and T. Higgins. I'm fine with that. I am okay with the Burrow-Higgins stack and just doing your best with it. It was bad for T. Higgins last week. We expect a bounce back week. I mean, T. Higgins had over 120 air yards in this game, right? So we can't be completely upset at, what we saw from T. Higgins. T. Higgins. I'm just verifying, but I think it's about 120 air yards that we got from T. Higgins if the site decides to load. There we go. Game log, 151 air yards actually for T. Higgins. 0 receiving yards, 151 air yards. 8 targets in this game against Denzel Ward. Ward is going to be real tough. So nevertheless, give me T. Higgins and Joe Burrow. I think Burrow has a little bit better game in week 2. I mean, can't get much worse for Burrow than week 1, can it? It was a perfect storm for Joe Burrow, right? It was the perfect storm because Burrow was dealing with the calf injury, which kept him out of the preseason. He was dealing with bad weather. If you remember the Cleveland weather, it was raining pretty good. And then the third issue was that the Cleveland defense played their tails off. You have to give credit where credit's due. And so those 3 things played into Joe Burrow not playing well and the offensive line not doing great, et cetera, et cetera. So there you go. All right. Whew. John Paul. Hey, boss. Who should I flex? Whose house I flex to pull off a 40% win? James Cook, Judy Lockett, Kendrick Bourne, Zay Flowers. Thank you. Goddard sold me. Oh, yeah. I mean, Goddard did okay-ish last night, but I mean, it wasn't a bell ringer type of performance, right? Goddard ended up having 6 receptions for 22 yards. 6 receptions you like, 7 targets you like, but 22 yards not going to get it done. So could be worse. If we're talking about who you should flex, a lot of these guys are looking pretty good, and it looks like a pretty flat tier for me. I want game environments, and I want lots of touches, and I want guys who could absolutely just spike. And Jeudy coming off the injury is not someone that I'm targeting right off the bat. Like, he may have to make some people's lineups. I don't mind if you put Jerry Jeudy in your lineup. I don't mind if you put Tyler Lockett in your lineup. Kendrick Bourne is a player that probably doesn't make your lineup, but he had 11 targets in week 1. You can't ignore that. And then James Cook and Zay Flowers are the two that I'm like torn between. But if I have to pick, I would go Zay Flowers, given his ridiculous target share that he had in week 1. James Cook, probably the safer play, but Zay Flowers could be a pretty solid wide receiver too, even with Mark Andrews expected back for week 2. So I think the safer play is James Cook, but if you want to take a shot on a higher upside wide receiver, let's go Zay Flowers. Tingley, hey Chief, can I get some help deciding on who to drop? One for my bench, please. Charbonnet, Ezekiel Elliott, Drake London, Dotson, Addison, Puka, and Laporta. At this point, I think you're dropping Charbonnet, and that's okay. Yeah. I mean, you could maybe drop Zeke if you view Charbonnet as the handcuff. But here's the thing. If Stevenson goes down, then Zeke gets a lot more valuable touches. If Kenneth Walker goes down, we're not convinced that Charbonnet is going to be good. Maybe he will be. I would prefer to have Zeke at this point in the season. So Charbonnet is the drop. Maybe that's the wrong choice, but that's the best. Okay. Michael, appreciate you jumping in, and I appreciate you subbing. If you guys like the content too, make sure you sub as well, just like Michael. Now, I have another league, and I'm still wondering who I should start wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Hopkins, Watson, Zay Flowers, Puka, JSN. Hopkins, probably not going to play. Christian Watson, 50-50 to play. Puka is probably going to play, but it's a really, really tough matchup against the San Francisco 49ers. He's probably going to lead the wide receivers in targets, but that might not mean much. And then Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think, is still in the pecking order behind Lockett and DK Metcalf. And I don't think that changes in week 2, even in a really nice, spike week possibility matchup against Detroit. So Zay Flowers is the pick here. Zay Flowers. Give me Zay Flowers in this. Start wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. So, yeah, you're starting Zay Flowers for sure. Like, obviously, if Hopkins or Watson are active, I think they're going to be your wide receiver 1/2, along with Zay Flowers. But I don't think Hopkins plays. Watson, I said 50-50. If you lose both of those guys, you're starting Flowers, and then would start Puka. But I wouldn't feel great about it. That's how I would approach this situation. You'd hope that Watson would be available, because then you'd plug him in. Because all Watson needs is 2 plays in this Green Bay offense. So give me Christian Watson if he's available. If not, then we're going to have to go with Puka. You're starting Zay Flowers no matter what. All right, cool. Well, that's all the comments. I appreciate all y'all. If you like the content, find it helpful, hit that red subscribe button, smash it. I appreciate all of you. This is great. I'm going to head to bed here very soon. It is almost midnight on the East Coast, but I appreciate all you jumping in the chat, asking questions. Be sure to be commenting, subbing, sharing with your friends. If you don't like the content, share with your enemies. Like, please, like, it would be very funny. Like, hey, this guy's an idiot, huh? You should watch him. And actually, like, whatever. It's actually, this guy's really smart, but I secretly think he's dumb. And then you just share it, and it's very funny. Okay. Anyways, I appreciate all y'all. This is great. lots of fun being had, lots of great comments, questions, or start sits. The YouTube channel is continuing to grow. If you're on Twitch, you're watching, you can subscribe as well. You can follow. I don't know. I'm not big on the Twitch, but whatever. It's okay. YouTube is my place. But I appreciate all of you. And, good luck in week 2. I probably am going to do another live stream tomorrow. We'll see if we do that. And then maybe we'll do some Sunday content as well, Sunday morning content. We'll see what we can do. We'll see if I have enough juice left. Y'all are squeezing it out, but I'm ready to give as much juice as I can. So y'all are great. Appreciate you in the chat. Michael saying, yeah, all my receivers got violated this week. Not gonna lie. Yeah, it's a tough spot. All right. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate y'all. Until next time, good luck in the fantasy football streets.
I embrace all this risk, I'm insane. Talking about that best bill, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still. Best bill, I'm the best rest till into the next world. Guess I got next still.